Hello and welcome again to Life with Collective Purpose. And today we are featuring another author of the book Journey to Authenticity. And today we have Tonda, and Tonda is live from Vancouver. Welcome, Tonda.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm technically in Maple Ridge, which is a
Okay.
suburb of Vancouver. And but I'm lucky enough to get to enjoy the city. Um, I didn't grow up in Vancouver. I grew up in the Midwest in the
Oh,
United States. And so it's been lovely to get to know this beautiful city.
wow,
And
that's beautiful.
yeah, I am. I'm a therapist, a clinical counselor, and I work in a lovely practice full of other therapists. And then I reside with my husband, my 3 children, my 2 dogs, and I have a very busy life.
Well, I'm really glad that you were able to carve a little time to come and talk to us about your chapter. Now, Tonda has a story which she shares in her chapter, which is very dear to my own heart as well. She talks about grief and the journey of grief. And particularly, she talks about how a lot of people avoid their authentic self in the grief journey, probably because of other people's expectation of what that should look like. And I know this from my own experience of my own grief journey. And I think when you lose somebody very close to you, it's a very unique journey to you. And I think the more you are able to be authentic in your own feelings and the way that you need to go through that journey of grief, then the easier the journey is. Of course, it's never easy. It's never an easy journey. But Tonda, tell us a little bit about your grief journey, because it spanned many years, because it was your son was born as a twin. And unfortunately, he didn't survive, but you have your surviving twin. So, of course, this is in your life every single day. So tell us a little bit about that journey, and perhaps how you have been able to stay authentic in your own grief journey.
Yes, it's been many years. Of course, I write about this in my chapter that essentially I'm still on my grief journey at 25 years.
Mm.
And that's how old my son is who's living. And so part of my grief journey is that there were other complications that happened in life, different things that I did not write about in the book.
Mm.
But those things really slowed down my my ability to grieve in some ways. So it was kind of like something that I just had to put to the side, even though it's always present at every holiday, every birthday, every milestone is a reminder, as it is for anyone who's lost someone that they really love. And so that's the same. But the unique part, I think, in my particular grief is that the idea of having twins,
Mm.
and my twins were identical.
Wow.
And so it for me, it's been a process of trying to understand emotionally how when I see my son that's living, my other son will have looked just like him.
Mm.
And that connection made it complicated
Mm.
for me, I think. And
Yes.
then as I say that right now, it also made it beautiful
Mm.
because I know what my other son would have looked like.
Yes. Yeah. And it must have been very interesting for you to have people around you that were, making their own judgments or their own version of how you should behave,
Mhm.
as a mother with a surviving twin. So what did you find were the biggest challenges in terms of you allowing yourself right to today to be authentic in your own grief?
Yeah, I think becoming authentic is my theme because in some ways my expectations of me
Mm,
rather than those around me in a way, because my expectation was you have to keep going. You
yes.
have a lot of things to deal with and you need to function well and be managing these other crises that are happening. And that's what you have to do sometimes, is that you're in a survival type of situation and you need to cope with it and continue on, as you likely know. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, so I expected that of me, and I don't think that I felt that there was really enough time available or like the space emotionally to do the grieving that I wish I would have done earlier. It just didn't work that way. So
Mm-hmm.
even writing this book was an opportunity for me to put that all down on paper in front of me
Mm-hmm.
and to really see, where have I been? And the people around me, I would say, like, my family has been so lovely and nothing but supportive. I think that the piece is I didn't speak of it much. And so they didn't speak of it much.
Mm,
And as a therapist, I know that that's so common in grief that other people don't know, will that be painful for her if I mention it?
mm,
Or will she feel like I don't care if I
mm.
don't mention it? So we can get into a little bit of paralysis of just not knowing how to be with that other person and their particular grief.
Yeah, I really identify with that. I mean, in fact, I think that guilt comes into
Mhm.
a big part, particularly in the early days, because, it's almost as though you feel like if you go in the public and you're smiling, for example, that's seen as, oh, look, she's already over it, right? Like she's grieving, but it's like it doesn't matter anymore, or and I think that there's that's part of allowing yourself to be authentic, right? Allowing yourself to celebrate life, right? The for me, and I'm sure it's the same with you, you still have a connection, with your loved one, and so I still have that connection,
Mhm.
and so I want to celebrate that. And but at the same time, there's that piece of guilt, which is, you know, how are people going to see me if I smile or I'm happy or I'm laughing, or my disposition is a smiley, happy face. And so,
Mhm.
for me, it was like I even at the scattering of the ashes, I was smiling the whole time because, I saw it as a celebration of
Mhm.
Azuka's life. But there
Mhm.
was that little bit of like me being authentic in that came with, guilt of like, how am I seen in the public? So I'm guessing, Tonda, that you bring that and you see that in your therapy, people that are, having problems with being the real authentic self during their grief journey. Is that something you see quite often?
I think it's very common. And a lot of times people perhaps haven't had a major loss until I see them. And so they don't know what to expect either.
Mm,
And how I sort of hold it with them is that everyone's grief is completely unique.
hmm
And so we don't have to measure grief. Grief is something that can't be measured.
hmm
And that in that is permission to explore and to understand what is my grief about,
Mm-hmm.
and in what way will I honor the love that is really this pain that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And you're describing that in your way, Julie, that in that celebration, it's the other side of the coin. It's the devastation of losing that
Mm-hmm.
loved one and how traumatic that is. And then the other side is, I wouldn't even be in such pain had I not loved that person
Mm-hmm.
so much.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. It's, I love the way you express that actually, because I see, I mean, I have to admit that during my certainly the first few months, I found it very difficult to find anybody that was able to truly relate to, what I
Mhm.
was going through. And I think for a lot of people, if they're not able to process their guilt, or process how they're feeling in that moment, they tend to hide, right? They hide away from people because they're too concerned about, how they're going to be judged, and they're judging themselves so much, right? That
Mhm.
that they're more likely to hide. I mean, I have met quite a few people that, a year, 2 years after their loved ones have passed, they're still in very heavy grief, and they've not been able to, you know, return to a normal life. What would you say to people that you feel are I'm sure you have seen this yourself, Tonda, like, a 25-year journey. Um, what would you say to other people that are struggling to get out of that, the deep grief? Or maybe they shouldn't be getting out of it. What would you say to people?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities there depending on the person, because some people have some very significant trauma. Like maybe they were in a terrible car accident and they
Hmm.
lost that person while they were also in the accident, or how I lost, a half of my pregnancy in essence. And so it's a complication.
Hmm.
And so when I'm with people, I'm initially trying to really support and give them permission to just be where you are right now. And
Hmm.
maybe you haven't had a chance to really share with another person and have a person who witnesses the
Hmm.
pain that you have. You just haven't had that yet.
Hmm.
And so that's not broken, and that's not something that's wrong or incorrect with what's happening for you, but it's that person's time at that moment is how
Yes.
I see it. It's your time right now because you're here and you can talk about it now, and then you can decide where to go
Right.
from there.
I love what you said about that, Tonda, because, I think it's having a witness, not somebody that's going to say, oh, you should be over it by now, or, you should get on with your life, or, you have to leave that behind, or, all of those versions that basically are saying, you stop being you, you should be this other person, not being the real you. So I love that you're saying that, being a witness to their particular journey, and helping people understand that every grief journey is completely unique.
Mhm.
It's totally unique. I know that from my own perspective, I encouraged my body, and I encouraged um I didn't hold on to my emotions in any way. I
Mhm.
screamed and I shouted and I cried and I cried and I cried, and I released everything that I was feeling, at the time, and I journaled, and I did many things um to process that
Mhm.
in real time. But as you said, for you had a surviving twin, So you had a responsibility to the surviving twin as well, and you have done for 25 years, right? So that is a very different situation for you to be able to have your grief, but in front of the surviving twin. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I think that's a very significant part that I can just say I learned in the process. I
Mhm.
love to say, you know, oh, I'm a therapist, so I know these things. But the truth is, because you know something doesn't always fix what's happening. That's not how it works, and that's
Mhm.
okay. And so just I have two other children that came after my son Ryan, and so it's been a process of me not wanting them to bear a burden,
Mhm.
but also the truth is that there's a fourth child in the family energetically. And
Right.
so I have memories, and my memories are how they are, and so then my children have different memories
Mhm.
that my youngest and my middle child don't they didn't know this baby that we lost. So
Mhm.
for them it's very, very different. So you're trying to sort out as a parent and a person what's mine, what's theirs,
Mhm.
how do we want this to look in our family system?
Mhm.
And so in part of what we've done is we do go to the cemetery sometimes, and it's not a thing that we've required of ourselves, but it's a place that we go occasionally when everyone is free, and we just can stand together and talk about that together.
Mhm.
And that part has been, I think, connecting for us because as my children got older, they learned a lot from us that they didn't know. Like,
Mhm.
these knew what type of pressure we were under when that happened. And we're
Mhm.
raising little ones. And then we've had a really significant loss and the stress therein. And so they've learned a lot from that. And I feel like in part that has helped them be so compassionate
Wow.
and
Yeah.
kind of in the way that you don't know someone else's story.
Mhm. Mhm. That's yeah, I mean, what a beautiful lesson, for your children, for them to be a witness, right?
Mhm.
Um, and learn from that. And as you say, be compassionate because your other children, as you say, didn't know Ryan. Obviously, the other twin must have a very different connection.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that that relationship is a very different one.
Yes, it is, and so I think because Ryan, our son that's living, and then Evan, our son that passed. So Ryan, it's like we wished for him to also be himself and to be separate and not to think of himself as, oh, I'm the twin of one that was lost.
Right.
And we wanted him to know that there's this great love for the both of them, and so we love someone in heaven, we love someone on earth, and it's different, a different way, and that Ryan can grow into himself, and
Mm.
not be identified as being that part necessarily. And I believe that that has gone well for him. And so when he was little, he used to tell us, "Oh, well, I know that Evan is here." And that was a beautiful blessing.
Mhm.
And as he got older, he was just able to articulate it differently that, that's sad. I would have loved to spend time with Evan. That would have been really wonderful. He would have been a great brother,
Mm.
and he would have been so wonderful to have in our family every day. And so that's what we process, that's what we talk about, and we have tears over that, and we also have joy over that because we can talk about it, and because we do have 3 children that we get to live with and we get to raise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much about looking back as well, that I'm sitting in a place now where I do look back and I can see that life filled in anyway,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what I was doing or how I wasn't doing it.
Right.
That life moved on, more opportunities came, more times for connection, other times to be happy about things. And so not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is in that position, but I've been
Right.
at it for a while. So I've learned, personally, life is going to go on. So when I'm with my clients, even though I'm not necessarily saying that because it's not always helpful,
Mm-hmm.
in my heart, I know there's more for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we have to take care of ourselves now and
Mm-hmm.
do the grief work and be ready for how life continues.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. And this chapter, I think, will help so many people to understand how it's very important to stay true to yourself. I mean, this book, The Journey to Authenticity, it's a very broad, authenticity is a very broad subject. And I think it's beautiful that all the authors of this book are able to look at this topic from various angles. And of course, grief is an angle that touches everybody. And so I think it's so important that you have shared your story in this book, Tonda, and that you've helping other people to understand the importance of being authentic to your own journey. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I know that when you were here in Puerto Vallarta, it was that opportunity for you to do some of that additional processing that maybe you never had the opportunity to do that. As you said, to have a week where you were really just focusing and writing about the experience. And that's a blessing to have had that time with you and to be a witness to that journey that you went on.
Yeah, I mean, Julie, that was such a gift to me to come and do this writing. And I had said to myself, I need to do some healing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this opportunity. And when I did the first draft of my writing, I know you saw the trauma because I just sobbed and couldn't breathe and had trouble reading. And just to be transparent, and that is why I'm here, for other people to see and hear that, oh, you know she doesn't have it maybe together in the way that people might imagine, that she is a human and her story is what it is. And even that many years later, it's okay because that's how the events went. That's
Mm-hmm.
where life took me. And and because I made that decision, I feel like it just went out to the universe, and the universe said, okay, here you go. And so I'm in Mexico suddenly writing about one of the most precious parts of my life. And it's vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know how people will connect with that. I don't know what they'll say. I don't know how they'll feel about it. So, um, but I think my great wish is that if there are people out there who need to just have some small word of encouragement, to keep going, and just to know that you're not on that road alone, and it can look any way it has to look, but I'm there with you.
It's beautiful, Tunda, and I'm so honored that I got to witness your authentic self 25 years later, in that, as you say, that authentic grief that was releasing as you were writing and as you were sharing your first draft. So I'm really honored that I got to share that with you and to be witness to it. And I think it's such a beautiful demonstration of being truly authentic, like truly authentic, you know, in front of your fellow authors that are also in the book, and of course to any reader that reads your chapter. So again, thank you, Tonda. And please let our audience know, how can they get hold of you? What is the best way to get hold of you?
I think on my Facebook page is one good way. And I'm struggling to know what.
It's interesting because on your Zoom, you've actually got your email, which is tonda@tellus.net. Is
And
that a
that's
way?
good too. Yes.
Excellent,
That
excellent.
actually is lovely because it puts everyone in the same funnel so that I don't miss anyone. So I really like that. And I would love to hear from people if there's some way that I can be a support or there's something that I can do. And Julie, thank you so much for the work that you are doing, because we wouldn't be here if not for your journey. And your journey comes from a similar place that life happened, and because of that, it took you on this beautiful trajectory, where we're all included now and more people will be included therein. And so thank you so much for just sharing, you know, sharing that struggle that you had turned into something so beautiful.
Thank you, Tonda. Yes, I think, I mean, it's the quintessential turning lemons into lemonade. And
Yes. But Julie, you make you make it a very sweet lemonade. So thank you so much.
thank you. And I'm so glad that we're able to share this with a much wider audience in the book. So thank you again, Tonda. And I'm sure that we're all going to be really looking forward to reading your chapter in the book, Journey to Authenticity. So thank you for now, and we will see you soon.
Thank you so much, Julie. Bye now.
Bye.